This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a duel, and the world was watching. What millions of viewers would later argue about online, in comment threads and reaction videos, was not what was said, but how it was said. Meghan spoke like someone who had already decided she would not be portrayed as fragile again. Lester spoke like a man fighting to maintain civilization in a descending storm. Neither raised their voice. Neither lost their temper. Yet every word collided like steel. Lester straightened slightly in his chair, posture still polite yet bracing. He glanced at his notes one more time, not because he needed them, but because it gave him just enough of a pause to choose his next move carefully. "Meghan," he said softly, "many people admired your courage when you stepped away, but they also noticed that your life remained very public afterward. Netflix deals, best-selling memoirs, magazine covers. Some wonder, did you truly leave the spotlight or simply change its angle?" It was not an accusation. It was a question millions had silently whispered, but Meghan heard it as judgment. Her lips curled. Ah, there it is. Lester waited. "The suggestion that privacy means disappearing," she continued. "That silence is the only acceptable form of dignity. Tell me, Lester, why is it that people like me are only respected when we endure quietly?" Lester stayed still, measured. "I'm not suggesting silence," he replied. "I'm suggesting clarity. Do you feel people misunderstand your intentions?" A flicker of something, annoyance or perhaps exhaustion, crossed her eyes. Misunderstand? They don't misunderstand. They project. They want me to fit a narrative, victim or villain. I refuse to be either. She didn't just answer. She declared. Lester nodded slightly, accepting the force of her words like a wave against stone. He could feel the direction of the interview now. There would be no soft landing. Only navigation. So he pivoted. "You've spoken openly against the monarchy," he said. "You've described it as outdated and restrictive. Do you believe there is nothing redeemable within institutions like it?" Meghan inhaled, slow and deliberate. Her gaze sharpened. "Institutions aren't sacred just because they're old. Longevity doesn't equal virtue. The monarchy is like a glass castle, beautiful from afar but hollow, shiny enough to distract from the cracks." Her tone held no hesitation. Lester kept his voice steady. "Yet there are millions who cherish it. Do you feel any responsibility toward how your exit affected them?" Her answer came fast. "I'm not responsible for preserving anyone's fantasy. A beat. My responsibility is to truth, not tradition." Silence once again filled the space like smoke. Lester pressed his lips together, not in disapproval but restraint. He had interviewed presidents, activists, soldiers returning from war. He had seen rage. He had seen tears. But Meghan was something else entirely. She was polished fury. He leaned back slightly. "Let me ask you this," he said. "When public figures speak boldly, and as you do, some people admire the fearlessness. Others find it abrasive. Do you think your delivery ever overshadows your message?" Meghan didn't blink. "If people are distracted by tone," she replied, "perhaps they weren't listening to the message in the first place." It was a clean yet cutting answer, one that sounded like it had been rehearsed long before this interview ever existed. But Lester wasn't done. "And what about your husband?" he asked gently. "Prince Harry has stood beside you through all of this. How do the two of you navigate this public tension as a couple?" For the first time, Meghan's expression shifted. Not softer, why, but tighter, protective. "We don't navigate it," she replied. "We stand through it. We're not in survival mode. We're in sovereignty mode." Lester nodded. "Some might say constant public statements keep the fire burning. Do you ever consider pulling back completely?" Her arms folded again. Pull back for whom? For critics who won't be satisfied regardless? No, silence isn't peace. It's surrender. There it was, the thesis of her existence. But something deeper lurked beneath the confidence. A flicker of fatigue, perhaps. A weariness only visible for half a second before her armor restored itself. Lester studied her carefully. "You speak with conviction," he said. "But conviction and peace aren't the same. Do you feel peace?" The question lingered. For the first time, Meghan hesitated. A microsecond. Barely visible. But Lester caught it. Her answer came quieter than expected. "Peace isn't given," she said. "It's taken." Lester nodded slowly, acknowledging the weight of the response. "And have you taken it?" he asked. Meghan's eyes met his, defiant, yet tired. "I'm still taking it," she said. The air between them changed. It was no longer aggression, no longer pure defiance, it was admission. Lester folded his hands, elbows rested gently on his knees. His voice softened. "Meghan," he said, "I ask this respectfully. Beneath everything, do you feel understood?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she exhaled. "Understanding is a luxury," she said quietly, one not often granted to women who refuse to apologize. Lester held her gaze, not as an opponent now, but as a witness. The silence that followed was no longer hostile. It was reflective. Finally, Lester spoke. "One last question," he said gently. "What do you want history to say about you?" Meghan's posture straightened slowly. Her voice steadied. "That I didn't comply." She paused. "That I didn't bend to expectation. That I built something new instead of bowing to something old." She leaned forward slightly. "And that I spoke, even when they told me to smile." Lester nodded. No more questions. No more defenses. Just two people. Two truths. He looked into the camera, signaling the end. "Meghan Markle," he said calmly. "Thank you for your time." She replied with the same refined smile she walked in with. But this time, it held something new. Not softness, not surrender, but completion. The cameras cut. The lights dimmed. The silence broke. Neither of them stood immediately. They simply sat, two figures beneath fading lights, as though they both knew they had just witnessed something that transcended interview format. Outside the studio, viewers would argue. Some would call her courageous. Others would call her combative. Threads and think pieces would explode across the internet by morning. But in that moment, in that silent studio, none of that mattered. Because between question and answer, between restraint and rebellion, something rare had occurred. Not agreement. Not understanding, but undeniable truth. And sometimes that is enough.